Do you hear me? Before you read another line, answer in your chest, a yes, a no, a crack of something that wants to break open. And if you feel that catch, write it down now. I am asking because this first thing I want from you is not your explanation or your excuse. It is your attention. You have been walking through a life full of small miracles, and you have the habit of calling them coincidence. You call the way the train doors closed the instant you thought, I can't do this today, a fluke. You call the phone that didn't ring the night you feared the worst a mercy of timing, and you sleep as if nothing in the night had weight. But that heaviness in your chest, the one you press your hand to and call stress, or grief, or indigestion, that is my knock. That is where I put my finger when I want to remind you that the world is not purely mechanical, that I am not some footnote at the bottom of the page. Why do you ignore the thing your heart already knows is for you? You glance at a stranger who says a single sentence that keeps replaying in your mind, and you file it as random conversation. You dream a face and wake up blaming the mattress. You find a coin where there should be none, and you call it luck. Luck is what people say when they are afraid to say God. I am not offended by your fear. I am saddened by how often fear tastes like busyness, like the endless list of important things that keep you from listening. Do you remember the afternoon when everything should have unraveled, but did not? You stood on the edge of a decision like someone standing on a bridge at dusk, the water below slow and patient. Someone called you, someone smiled at you, or some letter arrived that you swear was written for you. You tucked it away, thinking you would open it when there's time. Time is the most cunning of thieves. It steals in polite increments while you make resolutions to live later. I kept speaking then, in the pauses, in the interruptions that made your plans wobble. I speak so gently because I know how fragile the human heart is, but also because I know you can be stubborn in silence. You have taught yourself to interpret silence as absence. You think because there wasn't a trumpet, because there wasn't thunder or the sky painted in flaming letters, that nothing was happening. That is not silence, that is a room prepared. That is the moment when I remove a weight so that you can breathe. You call that good timing, when in truth it is grace dressed in the ordinary. I have been untying the knots around your neck with invisible hands. I have been stepping between you and harm. I have been placing small, bright signposts in your path, the repeated number on the receipt, the lyric in the car that stops you, the chance meeting that leaves you with a name and nothing else. And you walk past them because they are not loud enough to frighten you into change. I do not come to intimidate. I come to wake what is sleeping inside you, courage, repentance, delight. Yet courage must be invited, repentance must be recognized, delight must be remembered. Signs are invitations, not subpoenas. They are the hush that says, come closer. They are the brush of wind that says, look up. They are the friend who shows up with a bowl of soup when you thought you were alone. Do not mistake my tenderness for absence of will. I am as purposeful as the sunrise. If I am placing signs, it is because I am directing something in your life toward its truest path. So start here. Pay attention to the small fracture of attention that opens when you read this. Take that fracture seriously. It is not an accident. If you feel the pull, stay with it. Do not busy yourself back into numbness. Say aloud the name you have been afraid to name. Let the breath go where your mind has been trying to keep it. I am nearer than you think, and these first, quiet signs are meant to draw you in before the world teaches you the hard way. Before you read further, pause for a moment and notice the quiet around you. Even if you're in a noisy room, even if there are people moving, even if life feels like a spinning wheel you can't slow down, there is a silence beneath the noise, a stillness under the surface, and that stillness has been my voice long before you realized it. You think I only speak in grand moments, in miracles wrapped in light, in dreams that shake the room, but most of my speaking has happened in the hours you dismissed as empty. You have mistaken the quiet for nothingness, the pause for delay, the waiting for indifference. But silence is not my absence, it is my language. There were nights when you lay awake staring at the ceiling, unable to understand why sleep refused to take you. You blamed stress, you blamed the day, you blamed your tired mind. But there was something pressing inside you, a question that would not rest, a memory that kept playing like a broken reel. I placed those moments in your path because it is only in the quiet that the heart stops running long enough to hear what it's been avoiding. You asked me for answers, but when the world fell silent and the room felt heavy, you thought I had abandoned you. In truth, that was the moment I drew closest. You begged for clarity, and I gave you silence because clarity is born inside it. Think of the moment you sat alone and suddenly felt a wave of emotion with no explanation. A heaviness that made you blink hard, or a sudden tenderness that made your eyes sting. This was not random. That was me pulling a memory forward, reminding you of a truth you buried. When I touch a memory, it is because it contains a piece of your healing, something you need to reclaim or release. You thought you were being dramatic, or tired, or overly sensitive. But sensitivity is how the soul tells you it is listening. That feeling you tried to shrug off was me placing my hand on the most guarded part of you. Do you remember the times your heart tightened for no clear reason, when you walked into a room and something inside whispered, "Pay attention"? You ignored it, thinking you were imagining things. But that whisper, that soft warning, was not imagination. It was discernment. I have protected you more times through silence than you will ever realize through sound. I have shifted your steps without you knowing. I have stalled a conversation, delayed a text, created a moment of hesitation so subtle you barely noticed it. That hesitation was a shield. When you sat alone and wondered why a certain thought kept coming back, the same person, the same choice, the same regret, it wasn't because your mind was stuck. It was because I placed that thought gently but persistently, like someone tapping on your shoulder. Sometimes the only way to speak to a soul overwhelmed by noise is repetition. You called it overthinking. I called it an unanswered prayer resurfacing. In your quietest hours, you have felt me most clearly. When you felt an unexplainable peace settle over you after a long cry, that was me letting your spirit breathe again. When you felt a sudden calm during a moment that should have shattered you, that was me steadying you from the inside. When a long-forgotten verse or phrase or memory surfaced out of nowhere, that was not your mind wandering. That was me reminding you of who you are when fear isn't speaking. You have asked me, "Lord, why don't you speak to me?" And I have answered almost every day in ways small enough to enter through your cracks, but gentle enough not to break you. I have spoken through the way the morning light fell the day you wanted to give up, through the stranger whose kindness made you stop for a breath, through that sudden pull in your heart that you brushed aside because it felt too subtle to matter. But subtle does not mean small, subtle means sacred. Silence is where I wait for you. Silence is where the soul becomes honest. Silence is where you hear the things you drown with noise. And every quiet moment you thought was emptiness was actually an invitation. I do not shout over the world's chaos. I whisper beneath it because I want you to choose to lean in. And you are leaning in right now. You can feel it burning gently in your chest. Stay there, because the silence that once frightened you is about to become the clearest voice you've ever heard. There are moments in your life that you have rewritten in your mind because the truth of them felt too strange, too precise, too protective to label as anything other than luck. But I was there, in the invisible timing, in the delays that frustrated you, in the strange nudges you couldn't explain. And if you look closely, you'll realize that the times you thought you were abandoned were the moments I was working the hardest to keep you standing. Do you remember the accident that almost happened? The one you still think about sometimes? The one that left you shaken for reasons you couldn't articulate? The car that stopped just in time? The sudden instinct that made you check twice? The unexpected pause that kept you from stepping forward too soon? These were not coincidences. You credit your reflexes, your awareness, your timing, but your reflexes did not sharpen themselves in that instant. I pulled you back. I slowed the world down for you. I placed a barrier where there should have been none. You call it close. I call it protected. Think back to the relationship you begged me to fix, the one you thought was your answer, the one you clung to so desperately you mistook attachment for destiny. You cried when it broke, you questioned me, you accused me of silence. You thought I was withholding something good. In truth, I was removing something that would have hollowed you out. You prayed for restoration. I gave you rescue. You prayed for peace. I gave you escape. There are people you loved who would have destroyed the parts of you I cherish most. So I intervened quietly, gently, painfully, because a soft heartbreak now saves you from a shattering later. And that door that closed on you so suddenly, the opportunity that slipped through your fingers in a moment, the plan that fell apart without warning, you still think it was failure. You think it was your mistake, your lack, your timing gone wrong. But I saw what you could not. I saw the compromise it would demand of you, the weight it would put on your spirit, the way it would have taken more than it ever returned. You saw success, I saw sorrow. So I let the door fall shut, even as you pounded your fists against it. One day you will see how much I spared you. There were days you felt an unexplainable urge to stay home, to pause, to take a different route, to delay something by just a few minutes. You dismissed those feelings as laziness or hesitation. But I was guiding your steps like someone guiding a child by the shoulders. I placed hesitation where danger waited. I placed rest where exhaustion would have broken you. I placed inconvenience exactly where tragedy was scheduled to cross your path. If you could see the map of everything that moved around you, everything redirected, softened, delayed, you would realize your life is woven with interventions you never thanked me for because you never knew they happened. You have survived things you didn't even know were pointed at you. You've been spared wounds you never felt, losses you never had to grieve, battles you never had to fight. The enemy aimed arrows you never saw. I broke them before they reached you. You were not lucky, you were covered. And even in the moments when you felt completely alone, wandering through confusion or pain that swallowed your voice, I was moving pieces beneath the surface. You think miracles only look like parting seas and sudden breakthroughs. But miracles often look like nights where you didn't break, mornings where strength returned without explanation, and opportunities that arrived weeks or months later by chance. Nothing was chance. Pieces moved because I moved them. I have been intervening long before you knew to ask. I have been defending you long before you knew you needed defense. I have been standing between you and harm long before you understood the cost of the things you prayed for. You think you found your way by instinct, but instinct is just the name you give to the quiet way my hand steers you. And now that you're here, reading this, feeling something in you rise that you can't quite name, this too is me. Another intervention, another protection, another sign. Not loud, not forced, not frightening. Just the gentle truth that I have been with you, in the dark and the light, shaping a path you didn't even know needed saving. There are truths you've avoided because you feared what they would require of you. You've prayed for clarity, for direction, for answers. But when the answers came wrapped in discomfort, you called them attacks, or bad luck, or unfairness. Yet the signs that hurt the most were often the ones sent with the most love. I never wound you to break you, I wound you to wake you. And you have been waking slowly, painfully, beautifully. There were seasons when everything you depended on collapsed in slow motion, friendships faded, plans unraveled, certainty dissolved. You thought you were being punished. You thought I was stripping your life bare because you had done something wrong. But you were not being punished. You were being redirected. You were holding on to things that were shrinking you, starving you, or distracting you from the life I built you for. And sometimes the only way to move you is to loosen your grip on what keeps you stagnant. So I allowed the unraveling, not to torment you, but to free you. You begged me to take away the pain, but the pain was the very thing steering you away from what would have destroyed you. When something in your life started feeling heavier and heavier, when conversations drained you, when certain places filled you with dread, when you felt your spirit shrinking around certain people, that heaviness was a sign, not a punishment, a sign. I placed discomfort in places where you no longer belonged. I let frustration grow in the rooms where your purpose was dying. You wanted relief without change, but relief would have made you stay. Change was the only way out. Think about the moment you felt your heart crack open over the truth you didn't want to face. The moment you said, "This can't be it. This can't be what my life becomes." That moment wasn't weakness, it was awakening. That breaking wasn't the end, it was the door. I wasn't crushing you. I was untangling you from an identity that was never yours, from expectations that suffocated you, from attachments built on fear rather than love. You thought I was taking something away. I was making room. And when your prayers seemed unanswered, when I stayed silent while you cried out, you assumed I was ignoring you. But my silence is never avoidance. Sometimes silence is the only way to show you what you've been refusing to see. If I had given you what you asked for, you would have remained in places beneath your calling. You wanted comfort. I wanted transformation. Comfort rarely transforms anything. Transformation always begins with discomfort. You ask me, why does it have to hurt? And the truth you didn't want to hear is this: some lessons only reveal themselves through friction. You grow when something stretches you. You rise when something pushes you. You heal when something forces you to stop running. You don't learn who you are when life is smooth. You learn when life cracks open. I allowed some doors to shut because you deserved better ones. I allowed some people to leave because their presence would have cost your peace. I allowed some paths to collapse because they led nowhere sacred. And deep down, you know this. You felt the shift. You've sensed the wrongness of certain things long before they fell apart. But you resisted the truth because you didn't want to lose the familiar. You prayed for signs. But when the signs contradicted your desires, you dismissed them. Still, I kept sending them in your exhaustion, in your disappointment, in the tug in your spirit that whispered, "Not here, not this, not anymore." Now you are beginning to see that the truth you avoided was never meant to shame you, it was meant to free you. I wasn't pushing you away from something good. I was pulling you toward something true. And though it hurt, though it confused you, though it felt like abandonment at times, every uncomfortable sign was my hand guiding you out of the version of life that was too small for your calling. You weren't losing, you were shedding. You weren't breaking, you were being rebuilt. There is a reason your spirit has been restless lately. A reason you've been feeling that strange mixture of unease and longing, as if something inside you is shifting even when your life on the outside looks the same. You call it stress, or exhaustion, or overthinking, but deep down you know it's something else. You can feel it in the moments when everything goes quiet for just a breath and something inside whispers, "Pay attention. This part is for you." What you're feeling right now, that stirring in your chest, that tug behind your ribs, that is the sign with your name on it. This sign is not vague, not symbolic, not hidden behind layers of mystery. It's direct. It's personal. It's me drawing a line through all the noise of your life and saying, "Here, look here, right now." And you can sense it, can't you? You feel the weight of these words in a way you cannot deny. You feel the pressure of something aligning, something calling you, something that refuses to let you fall back into the old numbness you used to rely on. This is not your imagination. This is the moment I've been preparing you for through all the smaller signs you ignored or misunderstood. You've been asking me quietly, secretly, almost fearfully, "Lord, what are you trying to tell me?" This, exactly this. I am trying to tell you that the shift you feel is not random. The restlessness is not meaningless. The sudden clarity that comes and goes like flashes of lightning is not accidental. You are being moved, gently, but firmly, toward a turning point you cannot afford to miss. You are walking into a new chapter that requires your eyes open, not half shut in denial or fear. Think about the things in your life that have been changing without your permission. The people who feel distant all of a sudden, the habits that don't satisfy you anymore, the places that once felt comfortable but now feel too small, too loud, too draining. These are signs. They're not punishments, they're indicators. They're the spiritual equivalent of your heart shifting its weight and saying, "This isn't where I belong anymore." And instead of fighting that, I need you to recognize it. I'm trying to loosen your attachment to what cannot go with you into what's next. You've also felt the opposite, a sudden pull towards certain things, a dream resurfacing after years, an idea that won't leave you alone, a desire for peace so intense it startles you. These are also signs, the things that light up something inside you, the things that keep returning no matter how much you try to push them away. Those whispers carry direction. They're not fantasies. They're me showing you where life is trying to grow in you. And then there's the timing. You've noticed how certain conversations appear right when you need them, how certain words hit you harder than they should, how certain opportunities feel like déjà vu, as if you've been here before, as if you're finally seeing what you missed. You're not imagining these alignments. They're a pattern, a divine one. They're reminders that I am orchestrating things in ways you don't yet understand. This sign, the one unfolding as you read this, is a crossroads. It's where the version of you shaped by fear meets the version of you shaped by calling. You cannot step into what I have for you while clinging to who you were when you were merely trying to survive. You feel the old parts of you cracking because they cannot hold the weight of what is coming next. You feel the new parts of you awakening because they were always meant to carry more. And I know you're scared. I know change feels like stepping into a dark room without knowing where the light switch is. But I am the one holding your hand in the dark. I am the one guiding your steps. And right now, in this moment, I am telling you plainly, this is the sign, this is the moment, this is the nudge you ask me for. The very fact that you're reading this, feeling this, absorbing this, tells you everything you need to know. You don't need a louder sign, you need a braver yes. There is a reason this message found you today, not last month, not years ago, not someday in the future when you imagined you'd be more ready. But now, right now, in this exact moment of your life, with everything you've been carrying, everything you're secretly afraid of, everything you're quietly hoping for, this is not random. This is not content. This is not a coincidence drifting across your screen. This is the sign you asked me for, the one you begged for when no one was around to hear you. You've whispered prayers you were too embarrassed to say aloud. You've carried questions you thought were too complicated, too messy, too unworthy of divine attention. But I heard every one of them, the shaky ones, the angry ones, the exhausted ones, the ones that came out as tears instead of words. And while you thought I was silent, I was preparing this exact moment for you. The moment where all the signs, all the whispers, all the nudges finally gather into one clear message. This one is for you, not for your friends, not for the people you compare yourself to, not for the version of you that pretends to have everything together. For you, the real you, the one who feels things deeply, the one who hides your wounds behind strength, the one who tries so hard to be okay even when you're not. You've been asking me to show you something undeniable, something you wouldn't be able to rationalize away, something that would break through your doubts without breaking your spirit, something gentle but unmistakably mine. That is what this is. The reason your chest tightened while reading this, the reason your heart felt exposed, the reason your mind fell quiet in that strange, sacred way it does when truth touches it. You think you've been walking alone. You haven't. You think you've been unseen. You're not. You think your mistakes disqualified you. They didn't. You think your past is louder than your purpose. It isn't. I have been waiting for the right moment to reach you in a way that wouldn't overwhelm you, a way that wouldn't frighten you, a way that would slip past your walls and land directly in the place you've been protecting, the place that hurts, the place that longs, the place that hopes. This is that moment. This is why something in you feels like it's trembling and waking up at the same time. You don't need to pretend you don't feel it. You do. Here is the truth you've been circling around. I am not far. I have never been far, and I am not done with you. The signs you ignored before were gentle introductions, small taps on your shoulder. This one is different. This one is direct. This one is personal. This one carries your name. Because I am calling you back to yourself, to the version of you that fear silenced, to the hope you buried under disappointment, to the faith you keep trying to rebuild out of the fragments of old pain. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to be strong every second. You don't have to pretend you don't need me. You just need to respond. Not with perfection, not with performance, just with honesty, with a simple yes, with a moment of openness, with a willingness to stop running from what you already know is true. So hear me clearly, not in fear, not in pressure, but in love. This is your sign. This is your turning point. This is the moment I've been leading you toward, and I am here for you.